Hi, Andy XL back again with another NFXL podcast. Now, it's just gone 8 p.m. in the evening UK time, so that makes us just over 5 hours from the big kickoff. The long wait is over, and we're about to head into the first of 18 weeks of regular season play that will be full of the usual drama and shocks from week to week. So, this is my NFL Week 1 preview, part 1. Now, week one is a notoriously tricky week to predict. So, where might the surprise result or results come as we open the season? In week one last season, in all honesty, most results went as they could have been predicted, but one notable exception was the Bengals' home loss to the Patriots, and that nobody saw coming. Each week, I will provide a brief preview of each game, a predicted score, um, and what a breakdown of how it's going to come about. Now, in this part one, I'm just going to look at tonight's game and tomorrow night's game in Brazil. I'm saying tonight, as in UK time. So let's start with the season opening Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, obviously, this sees a big rivalry game as inverted commas America's team travel to play the championship defending Eagles in an NFC East face-off. The Eagles absolutely dominated the Cowboys last season, winning the two games by a combined score of 75-13. Although it has to be said, the Cowboys were without Dak Prescott for both games and CD Lamb for the Week 17 game, but Jalen Hurts also missed that game for the Eagles. So, dominance for the Eagles last season. The Cowboys' passing offense will be improved by the return of Prescott and Lamb, and he now has more support in the shape of George Pickens. And they should have more joy in the passing game against the weakened Eagles pass rushing unit from last season. That's theoretically. But the Cowboys were poor against the run last season and do not seem to have much to offer on the ground themselves this season. They were pretty good against opposing tight ends last season, but were good opponents to play against if you were a wide receiver or a quarterback. So bear that in mind for your fantasy picks before tonight's game. The Eagles were the best in the league last season against opposing running backs and tight ends. So, if you're looking to start a Cowboys running back or tight end, beware. Um, if the Cowboys are to mount a challenge to the Eagles in this game, then Dak Prescott, CD Lamb, and George Pickens will need to have huge games. For the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and obviously Saquon Barkley look likely to pile up the points against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys now without Micah Parsons as well. That to me, that's like waving the white flag on the season pretty much. And I cannot see the Cowboys winning this one, especially now Parsons has left, and actually think this will be a comfortable opening win for the Eagles. Vegas have the Eagles as an 8.5 point favourites. I think they'll win it by 10 or more. Um, if I was going to go for a score prediction, I'd say Philadelphia Eagles 31 and Dallas Cowboys 20. That's how I see this going. I just don't see the Cowboys really troubling them. They might put some points on the board, but the Eagles are just going to have too much for them. So that's the season opener. So what about the game tomorrow night? Kansas City Chiefs against the Los Angeles Chargers on a neutral venue in Brazil. So somewhat appropriately, whoever emerges as a winner from this game being played in Brazil is going to have had a close shave, as this is going to be a tough one to call, but it could well be pivotal in this division, so it's crucial right from the off. The Chiefs were masters of winning close games last season. 6 of their regular season wins came by 3 points or less, or in overtime. Which, when you consider they won the AFC West by a 4 game margin from the Chargers, shows how losing 3 of those 6 games could have made the divisional title go to different hands. It would have made it really close at least. Especially as one of those was a 2 point win over the Chargers in week 14, having won the other game by just 7 points in week 4. Coulda, shoulda, woulda talk, I know. But these two teams are very evenly matched, is my point. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, what could make the difference in this week one clash that could have huge ramifications for the postseason prospects of both teams? Now, The Chargers ranked just inside the top 10 in the league for defense, both against the pass and run last season, and were ranked just outside the top 10 overall for both pass and run offense. They've spent their early draft picks fairly evenly between offense and defense, but with a tilt towards the offense, notably Omari and Hampton at running back, Trey Harris at wide receiver being their first two selections. Then they went D in rounds 3 and 4 with Jamari Caldwell at defensive tackle and Kyle Kennard at outside linebacker before going back to take Aronde Gadsden at tight end and Keandre Lambert-Smith as a wide receiver in round 5. Those first 4 picks in particular should improve them both offensively and defensively as the season progresses. But asking rookies to be the difference makers in week 1 is a big ask, especially against a team like the Chiefs. With Joey Bosa, Poona Ford and Morgan Fox gone from their D-line of last season, that could make the D-line distinctly weaker in the early stages of the season as Caldwell and Kennard grow into their roles. The same could be said of Trey Harris, meaning Back to the Future signing Mike Williams will need to show up in this game. Running back Najee Harris is far more durable option than J.K. Dobbins was at running back. And despite the fact he's missed so much time pre-season due to that firework eye-related injury, he may get the greater share of the early workload than the rookie Hampton. That's generally how teams like to play it, but this is a bit clouded by that Najee Harris missing time in the pre-season. So it'd be interesting to see who gets to tote the ball most at running back in this one. All in all, this looks a better Chargers team than last year, but early in the season may be the best time to play them. So to the Chiefs, who are ranked just outside the top 10 for pass offense, mid-table for rush offense and pass defense, and inside the top 10 for rush defense last season. Now, they've lost to Sean Wharton and Josh Esch from the D-line of last season, with Jerry Tillery and second-round draft pick Omar Norman Lott coming in. Norman Lott has been battling injuries all pre-season, so he may not be a huge factor in this one, even if he does play, which still is not a certainty at this stage. That probably keeps them in the top 10 rush defenses when they've got all of that lot in place, but they may be weaker against the pass with safety Justin Reed having not re-signed. On the offensive line, down the road they look like they were back to full power at wide receiver with Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown back to full health, and Jalen Royals arriving via the draft, and a possible second season boost from Xavier Worthy. They have plenty of depth in this area. Now, Rice is going to miss the opening part of the season, as we know. Royals has been struggling with injuries, so not too great for week 1, that would point out. Travis Kelce also, he's not going to be the force of old, and he will gradually continue to degrade as he gets older and older. We all do. But he'll still contribute to what should be a top 10 pass offense this season, possibly top 5 even once they get everybody back and in place. The running game should be better too, with Isaiah Pacheco back for a full season, or they'll hope that's the case. Kareem Hunt did a good job filling in for Pacheco last season. And if they can keep him healthy, they also now have Elijah Mitchell. So plenty of options there as well. But for me, the concern for the Chiefs is still on their O-line, which was destroyed by the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Jalen Moore at left tackle does not look like the answer. And with first-round draft pick Josh Simmons coming back for injury, and like all rookies, even more so for him coming back from an injury, he's likely to need time. This will be an area the Chargers look to dominate in this game. So this is going to come down, for me, to how effectively the Chiefs can pass the ball in this game. And that means protecting Patrick Mahomes, or Mahomes having one of his win it on his own games, which he's shown he can do in the past. Khalil Mack, Bud Dupree, Tuli Tuipulotu, and safety blitzer Derwin James will need to get to Mahomes early and often for the Chargers to prevail in this one. For the Chiefs, they will need to be strong against the run. because that's really what the Chargers are looking to do this year with Hampton and Harris. They only allowed one rushing TD to the Chargers in 2 games last season. So if they can do something again like that in this game and then hold up against the pass, they could have the edge. But these are all the questions that we need to find answers to. The fact that I'm only now mentioning Justin Herbert shows how Coach Harbaugh has changed the Chargers' playing style and will continue to do so. Go back 4 seasons pre-Harbaugh, and it was all about Justin Herbert and the passing game. But Herbert will need to have a really good game if the Chargers are going to win this one, and they may need to do that through the air. To do so, Lad McConkey was their leading receiver last season, and so in the first game between these teams last season was 67 yards and a touchdown, but he did not play in the second game. Herbert and McConkey need big games if the Chargers to go nuts in Brazil. Couldn't resist it. The 2 games last season were surprisingly low-scoring affairs. 27 points in the first game and 36 in the second one. And red zone efficiency for both teams, but I suspect, especially for the Chiefs, could be vital here. The reason I say more for the Chiefs is because I think the Chargers may have enough to pound it in on the ground, but I'm not sure the Chiefs do. So, like I say, plenty of interesting points to watch in this game. Going to be really close to call, and it could go either way. First, as I said, first week games are the hardest ones to call generally. In truth, this is just too close to call, but I do think this will be higher scoring than last year's game between the two. Really, when you get games like this, you just sometimes have to go with a gut feel, and my gut feel tells me that the Chargers may just edge this one. So I'm going to go for the Chargers to beat the Chiefs 24-23, and that may well be a critical game to win and lay down the marker for how the season's going to go. So I'm taking the Chargers to edge this one 24-23. Now, picking a score prediction is, how many of them are you going to get right? There's so many variables, it's not likely to happen. But I'm basically saying it's going to come down to 1 or 2 key plays, but I'll take the Chargers to edge this one. So that's the first 2 games of the season previewed. Now, part 2 of my preview will cover the Sunday early games, the 6 p.m. games UK time, and then I'll cover the rest of the games in part 3. So come back to about those ones. And by the way, just give you a heads up, during next week, I'm going to have my first and initial September look at next year's draft prospects. Now, I do a lot of NFL stuff, but I consider my strength to be the NFL draft. In the past 3 seasons, I've been as accurate, if not more accurate, as any other person or site you want to go to find out what's going to happen in the NFL draft, who's going to go in what round, who's going to go early, etc., etc. So I'll be going through position by position during the next week, the potential 2026 class and how that could pan out. So I'll start with quarterbacks, go through running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, etc., etc. So look for that during the next week. If you really want to get a heads up as to what's happening in the draft, you will not find a more accurate source than listening to my podcast on that. All right then. Well, that's first 2 games. I'm saying easy win for the Eagles, tight win for the Chargers. Could go either way. That's how I see the season starting, and I'll come back with the early Sunday games in my next pod, and then I'll do another one for the late games and the Monday night game. All right then. Well, enjoy tonight's game. It's going to be an interesting watch to start the season, but I really think it's going to be a case of the Eagles just pounding the Cowboys. Tomorrow's game is going to be a much more exciting one to watch. That's it for me. See you soon.